So we are going to do a cylinder balance test right now. This is the first test that you should do before you ever do a mechanical test of any kind. It's real simple. You could do it with a distributor car, a distributorless car, a coil on plug car. This car has spark plug wires going to a distributor. What we're going to do is we're going to take away spark from each cylinder at a time, and we're going to look at the RPM drop on our graph here. So this is RPM, and we have in hundreds right here, and this is that live reading over here. So we're about 750, 740, bouncing right in between. So a cylinder balance test, you're checking the health of the cylinder by removing the spark. You could also do fuel injectors instead of the spark, but they're really hard to get at on this one. But so we're going to just focus on the spark plug one at a time. This is cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep in mind this will set a code for each cylinder. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this, and I'm going to pay attention to our RPM drop. And put it back in. And it looks like it dropped to about 540. So now I'm going to go to the next one. Not quite as much drop. Go to the next one. That one seems a little healthier. That one's just as healthy. So here's cylinder 1, cylinder 2, cylinder 3, cylinder 4. Cylinder 1 is my healthiest cylinder, which means I'm getting good air, fuel, spark, good compression. The number 2 cylinder is the one that I'd be thinking of as being my problem right here. So 2 is definitely the weakest. So let's go ahead now and rev the car, because when you do this test, you really should rev the car in between each RPM drop. But I want to show you how I got the RPMs. I'll hook up my scanner to the data link connector. And this is on the engines menu, okay? So there is a menu for engines and other computers. We want the engine, we want data. And then the very first data most cars will give you is RPM. And so here's RPM, it's always the number 1. And then I want to expand this. See the little arrow right here? There we go. Okay, so that's how we expand it. Hit that little arrow, and if I want to shrink it, go right here. So now let's go do our test real quick. We're going to do it real fast. We're idling right now about 700 RPM because our car is warmed up now. So I'm going to go to cylinder number 1 right here. I'm going to back out a little bit so you can see both. And I'm going to do all 4 real fast. Here we go. There's 1 drop. Go to cylinder 2. There's number 2 drop. Go to number 3. There's number 3 drop. And then I'm going to go to 4. And number 4 drop. Okay? And now I'm going to go, before I lose my info, I'm going to go ahead and pause. And now let's go ahead and study this. And let's look at our readings here. So this is cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4. And what you're looking for when you take away either fuel or spark is you're looking for an amount of RPM drop, and they should all be like within 5 or 10% of each other. So these 3 are within range. They're not too big of a difference between number 1, 2, and 4. What I'm worried about is cylinder number 3. So we got to figure out first, is it tune-up related, which is it air, fuel, or spark, okay? So it could be just a tune-up where I need to change my spark plugs, or it could be a bad injector. Maybe I have a intake valve that's not functioning properly, okay? If it's not tune-up related, where you can't adjust the valves, you can't change the injector, or you can't change the spark plug, then we mechanically test that, this whole motor again, doing a compression test, identifying number 3 and if it's a compression issue. So we don't really know what the issue is here. It could be tune-up, it could be compression. So first off, what we would do is go pull the plug and let's inspect it and see what the color looks like.
Rolling.
All right. Another thing I wanted to point out is number 2 cylinder right here. Here's my drop. If it was the same as number 3, I would be suspecting a blown head gasket between cylinder 2 and 3. So the gasket that seals each of these cylinders, we would have a blown gasket between cylinders 2 and 3 if these match. So I am a little concerned because there is not quite of a drop here and here, but not too much. But if these were the same or these two were the same, head gasket. And then we would still need to do a mechanical testing to verify that's true. All right, so let's go ahead and pull this plug out and let's see what the color is. I will say the plug was a little loose. Pull this plug out. It's definitely black. See that? Definitely black. It should be a whiter color or tanner color than this. So here's what our option is we could go ahead and we could compare it to the next ones. Now let's check one of the healthy cylinders. Number 1 was the healthiest. So let's go ahead and check this and compare with a good cylinder. Well, this is a platinum plug. This is a regular copper plug. It could be that my kids put in the wrong spark plug at the high school. That could be the issue there.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah. So we probably should just go ahead and put a new set of plugs in this and see if it improves. We're in the summer and I can't go buy plugs right now because this high school is closed for the summer and I can't use the budget that I have. So what we're going to do to verify if it is the plug is we're going to switch the number 1 plug with the number 3 plug and see if that changes the way this car runs. Okay, so being that I'm in a high school, this is a pretty common theme that we come across. I have like 15 cars. The kids get the inventory mixed up, and we get a motor that will have different plugs in it. It's pretty common, and it's the summer that I try to correct those conditions. So let's just do an experiment here and see if that platinum plug is the issue. All right, put that in, and then we're going to redo our cylinder balance test. Let's get started. So data. RPM, expanded. Okay, we're right at 700 RPM. Let's do cylinder number 1. Looks good. Cylinder number 2. Looks pretty good. Cylinder 3. Not quite as much in cylinder 4. Well, I like that reading a lot better. It did make a difference. But really, we need to change all these plugs. These plugs have been gapped and cleaned for an entire year, and they're worn out from just kids practicing on this car over and over and over. So we definitely need to change all the plugs, and by changing all the plugs, we'll probably get equal RPM drop. But the main thing about this video is how important the cylinder drop test is. A cylinder drop or a cylinder balance test. Most people call it a cylinder balance test. You're looking to see the health of each cylinder and how it produces power. And what happens is you take away spark or fuel and you see that power loss in the RPM. And that's as simple as the test can be. This is our Electude simulator that we use to go over different parts of the car. We have a coil on plug engine here, meaning that if you remove the connector, these are the coils right here, and underneath the coils is a spark plug. Okay, we definitely have an ignition fault right now with the way we set this up. We have our instrument cluster, and over here we have our live data. We're going to really focus on the value here, not so much the graph, which they could do a better job improving. Here we go. So we're going to start it right now. And you'll notice it averages, let's give it a little gas first, let it kind of settle down. Okay, so we're averaging about 1,150 RPM. Let's start with cylinder number 1. Went down to 920, so a little over 200 RPM. Let I level out, and now we'll do number 2. Again, and we'll drop about 200 RPM. 3, about 200 RPM, and 4, nothing. So we definitely have a problem with cylinder number 4. Let's try our injectors. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. So we definitely have a problem with cylinder number 4. I'm going to go ahead and take this and replace this coil. Put a new coil back in it, plug it in, and let's start it and see how we do. Sounds better. Let's give it a little gas. Oh, our misfire is resolved. Okay, let's do our cylinder balance test. 1, 2, 3, 4. We got it cured, and we also got it fixed with removing the fuel with the fuel injector. So we're good. Last thing we got to do is clear the codes. So we're going to go back to clear the codes, fault codes. And I want to emphasize that whenever you unplug an injector, you're going to get a 200 code. So you notice a 201, 2, 3, 4. And then whenever you unplug a coil, you'll sometimes get a misfire code, or you'll get a ignition coil primary circuit code. But they're the 300, so 301 to 304 and 351 to 354. So let's go ahead and clear these. Let's check to see if there's any more codes, and there's not. And our check engine light is off. A cylinder balance test is that simple.